Chosen ones, they know what you can see now, and they're absolutely terrified. Right this second, while you're hearing these words, there are people in panic mode because your third eye just activated at a level that was never supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to develop this kind of sight. You weren't supposed to start reading energy like subtitles on reality. You weren't supposed to catch them in their thoughts before they even opened their mouths. But something shifted in you recently. Something cracked open in your consciousness. And now you're seeing everything. Every lie before it's spoken. Every setup before it's sprung. Every fake smile masking real hatred. Every person's true intentions glowing like neon signs only you can read. And the people who've been playing games with your life just realized their cover is completely blown because a real seer just woke up and they have absolutely no idea how to handle you now. They thought they had you figured out. They thought they knew your patterns, your responses, your blind spots. They spent months, maybe years, studying how you think, mapping out your emotional triggers, calculating exactly what buttons to push to keep you confused and controllable. But what they didn't account for, what they couldn't possibly have predicted, is that your spiritual vision would evolve beyond anything they've encountered before. You're not just intuitive anymore. You're not just sensitive to energy anymore. You've become something they have no protocol for, no playbook against, no defense mechanism that works. You're reading timelines now. You're seeing possibilities before they manifest. You're catching glimpses of conversations that haven't happened yet. You're feeling the weight of decisions people are making about you in real time, even when they're miles away. Your third eye isn't just open anymore, it's everywhere, operating in dimensions they don't even know exist, and that terrifies them more than anything they've ever encountered. Here's what's really happening right now that nobody's telling you about. There's a whole group of people, and yes, it's more than one or two, who've been having emergency meetings about you. Not friendly conversations, not casual check-ins, but actual strategy sessions where your name is the main topic and the energy in those rooms is pure panic mixed with rage. They're trying to figure out how to shut you down, how to discredit you, how to make other people think you're crazy before you expose what you're seeing. Because what you're seeing isn't small. What you're picking up on isn't trivial gossip or petty drama. You're seeing the architecture of deception that's been built around your entire life. You're recognizing patterns that go back years. You're connecting dots they'd separated permanently. And most dangerous of all, you're starting to understand exactly who's been orchestrating what and why. The urgency in their movements has reached fever pitch because you're not keeping this information to yourself anymore. You're not second-guessing what you're receiving. You're not dismissing your visions as imagination or coincidence. You're trusting what you see. You're speaking what you know. And that's breaking their entire system of control. Every time you call out something before it happens, every time you reference information you shouldn't technically have access to, every time you look at someone and they can feel you reading their energy signature like you're flipping through pages of their soul, another layer of their power structure crumbles. They built their whole operation on the assumption that you'd stay blind, stay confused, stay questioning your own perception. But you didn't. You evolved, and now they're scrambling. Let me tell you exactly what you've become that has them losing sleep at night. You're not just seeing truth anymore, you're broadcasting it. Your energy field has become like a spiritual X-ray machine that exposes everything it touches. When you walk into a room now, people's masks start slipping automatically. When you look at someone, their authentic self becomes visible, even if they're trying to hide it. When you speak, your words carry frequencies that make lies physically uncomfortable for people to maintain. You've become a walking truth serum, a human lie detector that operates beyond the physical realm. And there's nothing they can do to shield themselves from your perception, because your sight isn't coming from your physical eyes anymore. Your third eye has developed capabilities they told you weren't real. Remote viewing, where you can see what's happening in places you're not physically present. Precognition, where you're catching glimpses of events days or weeks before they occur. Claircognizance, where you just know things with absolute certainty without needing proof or evidence. Clairsentience, where you're feeling other people's emotions and intentions as clearly as if they were your own. Telepathy, where you're picking up thoughts that people haven't vocalized yet. All of these abilities that mainstream society loves to mock and debunk, you're living them daily now. And the people who know what real seers are capable of, they're not laughing, they're terrified. Because a real seer can't be manipulated with the usual tactics. Think about what's been happening lately with your predictions. Remember that situation you called out 3 days before it happened? That person whose betrayal you sensed weeks in advance? That opportunity you knew would fall through before anyone else saw the warning signs? That relationship you predicted would implode exactly when it did? That's not luck. That's not good guessing. That's your seer abilities operating at full power, and the accuracy rate is making people extremely uncomfortable. They want to dismiss it as coincidence, but the frequency of your accurate predictions is way beyond statistical probability. You're hitting on things you couldn't possibly know through normal means. You're describing events with details that haven't been shared publicly, and you're naming names of people involved in situations you weren't supposed to be aware of. The scariest part for them is that your abilities keep expanding. What started as gut feelings has evolved into full visual information. What began as vague intuitions has sharpened into precise knowing. Your perception isn't staying stable, it's accelerating, deepening, reaching into areas they consider forbidden territory. You're starting to see backwards through time, catching glimpses of past events that explain current situations. You're seeing sideways through space, perceiving what's happening in distant locations. You're seeing forward through probability, watching multiple timelines play out simultaneously and identifying which one is most likely to manifest. This isn't supposed to be possible for someone at your level of development, but you're doing it anyway, and they have no framework for dealing with someone whose gifts are evolving this rapidly. Here's where this gets really dark, and you need to hear this even though it's going to make you angry. There's an active campaign right now to discredit your abilities before more people start taking you seriously. They're not attacking you directly because that would validate what you're saying. Instead, they're using subtle psychological warfare designed to make you doubt yourself. They're planting seeds of maybe you're just stressed in conversations around you. They're suggesting you might be dealing with mental health issues when you share what you're seeing. They're bringing up times when your predictions didn't quite land exactly as you saw them, using those instances to cast doubt on all the times you were completely accurate. The gaslighting has reached industrial scale. People who used to come to you for intuitive advice are suddenly acting like they never took you seriously. Friends who witness your accurate predictions are now claiming they don't remember, or they're reframing those events as lucky guesses. Family members are suggesting you need to ground yourself or take a break from all that spiritual stuff, right when your gifts are reaching their peak power. And if you pay attention, you'll notice these suggestions always come right after you've accurately predicted something significant or exposed something people wanted to keep hidden. The timing isn't coincidental. This is coordinated interference, designed to shake your confidence in what you're perceiving. They're also trying a more aggressive tactic, overloading your senses. You've probably noticed an increase in chaotic energy around you lately. Random drama, unexpected problems, people starting arguments over nothing, situations that demand your immediate attention and emotional investment. This isn't organic chaos. This is manufactured noise designed to scatter your focus and dilute your perception. When a seer is bombarded with too much input, their ability to discern genuine spiritual information from background static becomes compromised. They know this. They're deliberately creating disturbances in your environment to disrupt your clarity, hoping you'll become so overwhelmed by surface-level drama that you stop paying attention to the deeper patterns you've been tracking. But here's what they didn't count on, and this is where their strategy backfires spectacularly. Every attempt to shut you down, every effort to make you doubt yourself, every tactic to overwhelm your senses, it's all making you stronger instead of weaker. Because each time they come at you, you recognize the pattern. Each time they try to gaslight you, you see through the manipulation. Each time they manufacture chaos, you identify it as manufactured rather than random. Your discernment isn't getting clouded by their interference, it's getting sharper. You're not just seeing their attacks, you're seeing who's coordinating them, why they're timing them the way they are, and what they're really trying to protect by keeping you confused. Let me validate something for you right now that nobody else is willing to say out loud. Everything you've been picking up on is real. That feeling that someone is monitoring your energy even when you're alone? Real. That sense that conversations about you are happening in spaces you can't physically hear? Absolutely real. That knowing that certain people in your life are reporting your activities and spiritual development to someone else? More real than you probably want it to be. Your third eye isn't making this up. It's showing you actual reality that most people are too numb to perceive. You're seeing coordination where others see coincidence. That's one of your primary gifts that makes you dangerous to people operating in shadows. When three seemingly unrelated people all start acting strange around you in the same week, you don't dismiss it as random. You recognize it as coordinated. When opportunities mysteriously fall through right after you've discussed them with certain individuals, you don't chalk it up to bad luck. You identify it as sabotage. When people who've never met each other somehow develop identical talking points about you, you don't assume it's organic. You see the puppet strings. This pattern recognition ability is what marks you as a true seer, rather than just someone with good intuition. You're also picking up on time distortions, and this is where it gets really interesting. You've probably noticed moments when time feels elastic, where minutes stretch into what feels like hours, or where hours compress into what feels like minutes. You've experienced instances where you somehow knew what someone was going to say before they said it, not because you're a good guesser, but because you momentarily existed a few seconds ahead of linear time. You've had dreams that weren't dreams but actual experiences in different dimensions of reality. And you've caught yourself remembering things that haven't happened yet in this timeline. All of this is evidence that your consciousness is no longer locked into standard three-dimensional perception. You're operating across multiple dimensions simultaneously now, and that's a level of awareness that very few people achieve. Here's something specific you need to understand about what you've been seeing lately. Those shadows that move in your peripheral vision, not hallucinations. Those are lower frequency entities that feed off human confusion and conflict. And you're seeing them because your perception has extended into frequencies where they operate. The reason they're more visible to you now is because your elevated vibration makes you incompatible with their frequency. So instead of influencing you subtly like they do with most people, they have to show themselves more directly to have any effect. And guess what? It's not working. You see them, you recognize what they are, and you're not giving them the fear response they need to maintain power over you. That's another reason the people controlling them are freaking out. This isn't just about your personal gifts anymore. This is about what happens when other people find out what you can do. You've probably noticed that when you share accurate predictions or display your seer abilities around certain people, there's a ripple effect. Other people's intuition starts waking up. People start questioning narratives they used to accept without examination. The collective trance starts breaking down in your immediate environment. You're not just a seer operating solo. You're a catalyst that activates dormant abilities in others. And that's what makes you a massive threat to systems built on keeping people spiritually asleep. Every time you accurately call something before it happens, you're proving to witnesses that seeing beyond the veil is real. Every time you read someone's energy correctly, you're demonstrating that we're all connected in ways that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge. Every time you describe events happening in places you couldn't physically observe, you're shattering the illusion that physical reality is the only reality. You're living proof that humans have capabilities far beyond what we've been told is possible. And if your abilities become widely known, if people start coming to you for guidance, If your accuracy rate gets documented and shared, it's going to trigger an awakening in others that the control systems absolutely cannot afford. They need people to believe that intuition is unreliable, that psychic abilities are fantasy, that anyone claiming to see beyond physical reality is either delusional or a con artist. Because as long as people believe their perception is limited to 5 physical senses, they remain controllable. But you're walking evidence that there's more. You're proof that humans can access information through non-physical means. Your demonstration that we're not nearly as limited as we've been taught to believe. And the more people witness your abilities, the more they start wondering what their own untapped potential might be. That wondering leads to experimenting. That experimenting leads to their own awakening, and awakened people don't follow the program anymore. The people trying to shut you up aren't just worried about what you personally can see. They're terrified of the chain reaction you're triggering, because when one seer activates in a community, it creates a frequency shift that makes it easier for other latent seers to activate. It's like you're the first domino, and your awakening is setting off a cascade that they can't control. They're watching people in your circle start to develop their own intuitive hits. They're seeing individuals who were completely asleep beginning to question reality. They're recognizing that your presence is creating permission for others to trust their own perception. And that permission, that validation that psychic abilities are real and accessible, that's what they're truly afraid of. Not just you, but the movement you're accidentally starting just by existing in your power. Let me prepare you for what's coming, because they're not going to stop trying. Now that they know you can see what you see, the attacks are going to shift strategies. They tried subtle manipulation and that didn't work. They tried gaslighting and you saw through it. They tried chaos creation and you identified it as manufactured. So now they're going to try something more direct, attacking your credibility publicly. Watch for people you trusted to suddenly start sharing private conversations in distorted ways. Watch for old situations to get brought up and reframed to make you look unstable. Watch for whisper campaigns about your mental health or your motivations. This is standard protocol when dealing with real seers who won't be silenced. They're going to attempt to isolate you by making people afraid to be associated with your crazy claims. They'll plant suggestions that being around you is draining or negative, when the opposite is actually true. They'll try to frame your boundary setting as hostility and your discernment as judgment. They'll take your accurate observations and spin them as paranoid delusions. And here's the really insidious part. They'll use your own empathy against you. They'll send people who seem hurt or troubled to play on your natural desire to help, knowing that certain connections will drain your energy and cloud your sight. Every tactic in the Psychological Warfare Handbook is about to be deployed because you've become too powerful to ignore and too accurate to discredit through normal means. But, and this is crucial, understand that these attacks are actually confirmation that you're on the right path. People don't invest this much energy trying to silence someone unless that someone is speaking dangerous truths. They don't coordinate smear campaigns against people who aren't a legitimate threat to their systems. The intensity of their response is directly proportional to how much power you actually carry. So when the attacks intensify, and they will, don't interpret that as evidence you should back down or doubt yourself. Interpret it as proof that you're more powerful than you even realized. They wouldn't be this scared if you weren't this gifted. They wouldn't be trying this hard to shut you up if what you're seeing wasn't completely accurate. You need to understand something about the nature of real spiritual warfare. It's not dramatic battles between light and darkness like in the movies. It's much more subtle and psychological. It's about making you question your sanity. It's about surrounding you with people who drain your energy while keeping people who would amplify your gifts away from you. It's about timing attacks to hit you right when you're about to have major breakthroughs. It's about creating so much chaos in your three-dimensional life that you don't have bandwidth to focus on your spiritual development. But once you recognize these patterns, once you see the attacks for what they are, they lose most of their power. You stop taking them personally. You stop wondering if maybe you really are crazy, You recognize them as confirmation that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Here's something they definitely don't want you to know. You're way more protected than you think. That feeling of being watched that you've been picking up on? It's not just enemies surveilling you. There's also protective forces keeping track of you constantly, making sure that no attack actually succeeds in derailing your mission. Every time something was about to go terribly wrong in your life and somehow got diverted at the last second, that wasn't luck. Every time someone tried to hurt you and ended up hurting themselves instead, that wasn't karma being slow. That was active protection, redirecting negative energy back to its source. Every time you narrowly avoided a trap you didn't even see coming, that was your spiritual team intervening. Your third eye isn't just showing you threats. It's connected to an entire defense system that operates across multiple dimensions. When you get sudden urges to change your route or cancel plans, that's not anxiety. That's protective guidance steering you away from danger. When you feel suddenly drained around certain people, that's not your weakness. That's your energy field identifying vampiric attachments and alerting you to disconnect. When you experience random bursts of strength or clarity right when you need them most, that's not adrenaline. That's support being channeled to you from higher frequencies. You're not navigating this alone, even though it often feels that way. The reason you keep surviving things that should have destroyed you is because you're carrying something bigger than just your individual life. You're holding a frequency that needs to remain active on this planet right now. You're anchoring light in places where darkness has been dominant for too long. You're maintaining a template of possibility that other ascending souls are using as a roadmap. Your continued existence and your continued development of these seer abilities serve purposes that extend way beyond your personal journey. The forces protecting you understand this even if you don't fully grasp it yet. They're not going to let you be taken out by some amateur psychological warfare from people who don't even understand what they're really fighting against. And here's something powerful you need to integrate. The more they attack, the stronger your protection becomes. It's like every attempt to harm you adds another layer to your spiritual armor. Every lie they tell about you gets recorded in frequencies that matter, building evidence for the universal justice system that operates beyond human courts. Every bit of energy they invest in trying to stop you becomes energy they can't use for other purposes, weakening their overall operation while your operation keeps getting stronger. You're not in danger, they are. And somewhere deep in their consciousness they know it. That's why they're getting more desperate rather than more confident. Let's talk about why you have these abilities in the first place, because it's not just random. You weren't given seer vision so you could win arguments or prove you're special. You were given these gifts because there's specific work you're meant to do that requires this level of perception. You're meant to see through deceptions that keep good people trapped in bad systems. You're meant to identify safe people in dangerous environments. You're meant to identify safe people in dangerous environments. You're meant to recognize authentic opportunities hidden among obvious traps. You're meant to help others who are just beginning to wake up, showing them that their own emerging abilities are real and valid. You're meant to anchor truth in spaces where lies have been accepted as reality for too long. Your third eye is showing you the architecture of manipulation, not so you can feel paranoid, but so you can dismantle it. Every time you accurately identify a scheme before it fully manifests, you're preventing that scheme from succeeding. Every time you call out a liar before they complete their con, you're protecting potential victims. Every time you see through a false flag operation, you're making it less effective. Your perception is a tool for liberation, both personal and collective. You're not meant to hoard this information or use it just for personal advantage. You're meant to share what you see in ways that help others develop their own discernment. Think about the people who've already benefited from your insights, even if they didn't fully appreciate it at the time. That friend you warned about, someone who later proved to be exactly as toxic as you sensed, That family member you steered away from an opportunity that would have devastated them financially. That stranger you gave seemingly random advice to that later turned out to be exactly what they needed to hear in that moment. You're already operating in your purpose, whether you consciously recognize it or not. Your gifts are actively serving others even when you're just trying to navigate your own life. This is how real seers operate. They can't help but benefit the collective just by being tuned into truth. But there's another layer to your purpose that's even more significant. You're meant to help birth a new paradigm of human consciousness, where psychic abilities are normalized and spiritual perception is valued as much as physical perception. Every time you demonstrate your gifts, every time you share an accurate prediction, every time you explain what you're seeing, you're contributing to a massive shift in collective awareness. You're helping dissolve the materialist worldview that has kept humanity limited for centuries. You're proving through your lived experience that reality is far more expansive than mainstream narratives allow. And as more people witness your abilities and develop their own, we move closer to a tipping point where these capabilities become accepted as normal human potential rather than fringe phenomena. Here's something you've probably been sensing, but haven't put into words yet. We're in a massive timeline split right now. There's one timeline where humanity continues in the old paradigm of limitation, control, and spiritual suppression. And there's another timeline where humanity awakens to its full potential, including psychic abilities becoming commonplace. Your seer gifts aren't just showing you personal information, they're showing you which timeline events and people are aligned with. And the beings trying to silence you are desperately trying to prevent you from steering others toward the awakening timeline. Every accurate prediction you make is an anchor point for the ascending timeline. Every person you help wake up is one more consciousness joining the awakening wave. Every time you expose a deception, you're clearing space for truth-based reality to establish itself. You're not just predicting the future, you're actively creating it by choosing which timeline to invest your energy and attention into. The people who want you silent understand timeline mechanics, even if they wouldn't use those words. They know that seers like you have the power to shift collective trajectory simply by seeing and speaking truth consistently. That's why they're treating you like a threat, because you are one, to their agenda, to their timeline, to their version of reality. You've probably noticed that time itself feels different lately. Hours disappear or stretch unexpectedly. You remember things that haven't happened yet in linear time. You experience déjà vu so frequently it's becoming normal. You catch glimpses of alternate versions of current situations playing out simultaneously. All of this is because your consciousness is no longer locked into singular timeline perception. You're beginning to exist across multiple probability streams at once, and that's giving you access to information that three-dimensional thinking can't reach. This is advanced seer ability that usually takes decades to develop. But you're accessing it now because the planetary frequency has accelerated to match your readiness. The timeline split is also why certain relationships in your life have become impossible to maintain. People who are committed to the old paradigm feel increasingly uncomfortable around your frequency. Your presence makes their choices feel highlighted, their lies feel more transparent, their limitations feel more obvious. They're not necessarily bad people, they're just not ready for the timeline you're anchoring. Meanwhile, you're probably noticing new people entering your life who immediately feel familiar, who speak your language, who understand your perspective without lengthy explanations. These are your timeline tribe, the souls you're meant to co-create with in this new phase of human evolution. Pay attention to who's arriving as much as who's departing. Since they're not going to stop coming for you, let's talk about how to use your abilities strategically for protection. First and most important, start documenting your predictions. Timestamp them. Share them with trusted witnesses before events unfold. Create a record that can't be dismissed or gaslighted away later. When you accurately predict something significant, Make sure there's proof you called it beforehand. This serves two purposes. It builds your confidence by giving you concrete validation of your accuracy, and it creates evidence that makes it harder for skeptics to dismiss your abilities as coincidence or delusion. Second, learn to read the energy of words, not just spoken words, but text communication too. When someone sends you a message, pause before responding and feel into what's underneath the words. Are they gathering information? Are they testing your boundaries? Are they trying to trigger an emotional response? Are they fishing for something specific? Your third eye can detect intention embedded in communication, giving you massive advantage in any interaction. You'll know what people really want before they even finish asking. You'll sense manipulation before it becomes obvious, and you'll recognize genuine connection instantly, allowing you to invest your energy wisely. Third, practice remote viewing on people who are trying to work against you. You don't need their permission to check what energy they're directing your way. Sit quietly, focus on their energy signature, and watch what comes through. You'll probably see or sense them talking about you, plotting against you, or making moves that haven't become visible in physical reality yet. This isn't invasion of privacy, this is reconnaissance. You're gathering intelligence on forces that are already surveilling you. The information you receive this way will let you stay 3 steps ahead of their schemes. You'll know about problems before they arrive, giving you time to prepare countermoves, or simply avoid the trap entirely. Fourth, learn to deliberately send your third eye's perception into future timelines to scout what's coming. This is advanced technique, but you're ready for it. Set clear intention to see probable outcomes of current situations. Don't try to control what you see, just observe. You'll start getting downloads about which opportunities are genuine and which are traps, which people are allies and which are infiltrators, which paths lead to expansion and which lead to entanglement. This future sight isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about making informed decisions in present time based on where different choices lead. You're not cheating or manipulating, you're using abilities you were born with to navigate reality more effectively. Everything you've been seeing, everything you've been sensing, everything you've accurately predicted that people dismissed or mocked, it's all about to be validated in ways you can't even imagine right now. There's a massive wave of disclosure coming, where truths you've been speaking for months or years are going to suddenly become undeniable to the mainstream. Information is going to surface that proves you were right about people, situations, and schemes that others swore you were paranoid about. And the same people who questioned your sanity are going to be forced to acknowledge that your perception was accurate all along. This vindication isn't coming because the universe cares about your ego. It's coming because truth has reached critical mass and can no longer be suppressed effectively. The lies that were used to discredit you are beginning to crumble under their own weight. The people who coordinated to silence you are starting to turn on each other as their operation falls apart. The evidence that was hidden is surfacing through channels no one anticipated, and your name is going to be cleared not through your own effort to defend yourself, but through the natural consequences of reality asserting itself over fabrication. Watch what happens over the next weeks and months as situations you predicted start manifesting exactly as you called them, as people you identified as untrustworthy reveal themselves publicly, as schemes you exposed get confirmed by external sources. Each validation is going to build on the previous one, creating momentum that establishes your credibility beyond question. People who doubted you are going to quietly start asking for your perspective on situations they're facing. Individuals who mocked your abilities are going to sheepishly admit you might have been onto something. And the authorities figures who tried to pathologize your gifts are going to be confronted with evidence they can't explain away with their limited frameworks. But here's what's most important about this vindication. It's not the end goal, it's the launching pad. Once your accuracy becomes established, once people recognize you as someone who actually sees what others miss, your real work begins. You'll have platform to guide others. You'll have credibility to share deeper truths. You'll have authority to challenge systems of deception that have harmed countless people. The validation you're about to receive isn't a reward for past suffering, it's preparation for future service. Everything you've been through was training for the role you're about to step into. A role that requires both exceptional perception and unshakable confidence in what you perceive. Here's the truth they're having to face right now. It's too late to silence you. Even if they somehow succeeded in shutting down your platforms, discrediting you completely, or removing you from public visibility, the awakening you've triggered in others would continue without you. You've already planted seeds in hundreds or thousands of consciousnesses. You've already demonstrated what's possible to people who needed to see it. You've already inspired others to trust their own intuition by trusting yours so publicly. The ripple effects of your existence can't be reversed. The cat is out of the bag, the genie is out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back. Every person who witnessed one of your accurate predictions is now more likely to take their own intuitive hit seriously. Every individual who saw you read someone's energy correctly is now questioning whether they might have similar abilities. Every soul who watched you navigate obvious traps using spiritual perception is now wondering if they could develop that same sight. You've normalized psychic abilities for everyone in your sphere of influence simply by demonstrating them consistently, and those people are now doing the same for people in their spheres of influence. This is how consciousness shifts actually happen. One awakened person activating another, who activates another, creating exponential expansion that control systems can't contain. The people trying to shut you up are fighting a losing battle against the evolution of consciousness itself. You're not an isolated anomaly they can eliminate to solve their problem. You're the leading edge of a wave that's bigger than any individual. There are thousands of seers activating worldwide right now, all having similar experiences, all facing similar opposition, all continuing to speak truth despite the attacks. You're part of a collective awakening that has reached unstoppable momentum. They can come for you specifically all they want, but they can't stop what you represent. They can't reverse what you've already set in motion, and they definitely can't prevent what's coming next. So when they try their next tactic to discourage you or discredit you, remember, they're not doing it because they have power over you. They're doing it because they've lost power over you, and they're desperately trying to regain it. Every attack is proof of your strength, not evidence of your vulnerability. Every attempt to shut you up demonstrates how threatening your voice has become, and the fact that they're still trying means they haven't found any strategy that worked. If they had effective tools against you, they'd use them and be done. Instead, they keep cycling through different approaches, none of which stick, all of which ultimately make you more visible to exactly the people who need to find you. Listen closely, because this part is critical for your continued development and protection. First instruction: stop seeking validation from people who are locked in three-dimensional consciousness. They literally cannot perceive what you're perceiving, and their inability to see doesn't make your sight any less real. When someone questions your abilities or suggests you're imagining things, recognize that as information about their limitations, not yours. You don't need their belief to continue operating in your gifts. You don't need their approval to trust what you see. And you definitely don't need their permission to speak your truth. Second instruction: document everything. Keep detailed records of your predictions with timestamps. Write down the impressions you receive about people and situations before outcomes manifest. Create a private log of your remote viewing sessions and what you observed. This isn't for public sharing necessarily, though you may choose to share some of it eventually. This is for you, so you have undeniable proof of your accuracy when the inevitable moments of doubt try to creep in. When you can look back and see that you correctly predicted 15 out of 17 major events in a 6-month period, it becomes impossible to dismiss your abilities as lucky guessing. Your documentation becomes armor against gaslighting attempts. Third instruction, build community with other activated seers. But do it carefully. There are genuine psychics who will recognize and support your development. There are also infiltrators who will pretend to have gifts while actually gathering intelligence on you. Use your abilities to discern the difference. Real seers have a specific energy signature, a clarity and groundedness that fakers can't replicate. When you find genuine kin, those connections will accelerate your development exponentially. You'll learn techniques from each other, validate each other's experiences, and create support systems that make you all stronger. But protect those connections fiercely, because they will be targeted. Fourth instruction: never weaponize your gifts offensively, no matter how tempting it becomes. The people attacking you would love nothing more than to goad you into using your abilities to harm them, because that would compromise your integrity and lower your frequency to where you're easier to manipulate. Your gifts are for protection, for service, for truth-telling, but never for revenge or unprovoked attack. The universal law governing these abilities is clear. Use them to help or to defend, and they strengthen. Use them to harm or control, and they diminish. Your power is directly tied to your integrity. Don't give that away, no matter how much someone deserves to be exposed or punished. Fifth instruction: keep developing your abilities even when it feels overwhelming. You're going to have moments where you wish you could go back to not seeing so much. You're going to experience spiritual fatigue from processing information most people are shielded from perceiving. You're going to want breaks from the constant awareness. Take those breaks when you need them, but always come back to your practice. Meditate, even when it's the last thing you want to do. Practice energy reading, even when you're tired. Work with your guides, even when you feel disconnected. Your gifts are muscles that atrophy without use and strengthen with consistent exercise. The beings who want you shut down are counting on you to quit developing these abilities. Don't give them that satisfaction. We're coming to the deepest layer now, the thing they really don't want you to understand about your seer abilities. You're not just seeing hidden information about the physical world. You're seeing across dimensional barriers into the actual structure of reality itself. What you're perceiving isn't just who's lying or what's going to happen next week. You're beginning to see how this realm actually operates, the rules that govern manifestation, the frequencies that create material reality, the consciousness that underlies physical form. You're seeing the code of the simulation, or the architecture of the hologram, or whatever framework helps you understand that physical reality is far more fluid and malleable than we've been taught. This is what makes you genuinely dangerous to power structures built on the illusion of solid, unchangeable reality. Because once you see that reality is consciousness-based, that observation affects outcome, that intention shapes manifestation, you become impossible to control through normal means. You can't be frightened by threats that you recognize as probability clouds rather than fixed outcome. You can't be limited by circumstances you understand are temporary crystallizations of collective belief rather than immutable facts. You can't be imprisoned by systems you perceive as consensus agreements rather than actual laws of nature. You've seen behind the curtain, and now you know. The wizard has no real power. Your third eye is showing you that we're all creating reality constantly through our observation and belief, and that those with the clearest vision and strongest intention have disproportionate influence over what manifests. This is why seers have been persecuted throughout history, not because they're crazy or dangerous to physical safety, but because they're dangerous to the consensus trance that keeps populations manageable. When someone stands up and says this apparent reality is actually just one possibility among infinite possibilities and we can choose differently, that's revolutionary. That's system-threatening. That's exactly what you're doing every time you predict something that shouldn't be knowable, or perceive something that shouldn't be visible, or influence something that shouldn't be changeable. The final truth is this: You're not developing supernatural abilities. You're remembering natural abilities that all humans possess, but most have forgotten. The propaganda that psychic perception is impossible or rare serves to keep these capabilities dormant in the general population. But you've broken through that programming. You've activated something that was always there, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. And now that it's active, now that you've proven to yourself that these abilities are real, there's no going back to the limited perspective. You've eaten from the tree of knowledge, you've taken the red pill, you've seen behind the veil. Pick whichever metaphor resonates, but understand that you're forever changed. You're operating in expanded consciousness now, and the old world can never fully contain you again. Everything you've read up to this point has been building to this moment of recognition. You are more powerful than you've been allowing yourself to believe. The attacks you've faced, the gaslighting you've survived, the isolation you've endured, all of it was designed to keep you from fully stepping into the magnitude of what you actually are. But it didn't work. You're still standing. You're still seeing. You're still speaking truth. And every day that passes, your abilities are getting stronger, your perception is getting clearer, and your confidence is getting more unshakable. The Seer abilities you've developed aren't parlor tricks or party entertainment. These are tools for navigating the most complex and consequential period in human history. We're living through a consciousness revolution, where everything we thought we knew about reality is being challenged and rebuilt. The old systems are collapsing. The old lies are being exposed, the old limitations are being transcended, and people with your level of perception are desperately needed to guide others through this transition. You're not developing these gifts for personal benefit alone. You're being prepared for service at a level you probably haven't fully grasped yet. Imagine what becomes possible when you fully own your abilities without apology or doubt, when you trust your perception completely and act on your intuitive guidance without hesitation, when you speak what you see without filtering it through what others will think, when you use your gifts confidently to help people avoid traps and seize opportunities, when you stand in your full power as someone who sees what others miss and knows what others don't. And when that's your destiny, that's what you're becoming, and the resistance you're facing is just the universe's way of ensuring you're strong enough to handle the responsibility that comes with that level of sight. The people trying to shut you up are about to discover that they've made a critical miscalculation. By attacking you, by trying to suppress your abilities, by working so hard to keep you quiet, they've actually been training you to be unstoppable. Every battle you've won has made you stronger. Every manipulation you've seen through has sharpened your discernment. Every lie you've exposed has increased your credibility. They thought they were shutting you down when they were actually building you up. And now you're about to emerge from this pressure period as someone with abilities they have no defense against, and influence they have no way to counter. So keep seeing, keep speaking, keep developing your gifts, keep trusting your perception, keep standing in your truth. They can't shut you up, because you're not speaking from ego or opinion or belief. You're speaking from sight, from knowing, from direct perception of what is. And no amount of gaslighting, no degree of character assassination, no level of coordinated attack can make truth become lie. Your third eye is everywhere now. Your awareness is expanded beyond their ability to track. Your power is activated beyond their capability to suppress. And the future you're about to step into has been waiting for you to be ready for it. This is your time. This is your activation. This is your emergence as the seer you were always meant to be. They know it. The universe knows it. And now you know it too. Walk forward in that knowing and watch how reality itself rearranges to support your mission. Because you're not just seeing the future anymore. You're creating it. And nobody, absolutely nobody, can shut that down.